This video is for lesson 3, part 2 of our mini unit. We are still rationalizing the denominator. This is just the second page of those notes that we started yesterday. Okay, so anytime we have a square root on the bottom, I'm switching to a thinner pen because we're about to have a lot of work to show. We multiply by whatever's on the bottom. All right, 18 times 9, pull up my calculator here. All right, 18 times 9 is 162. 10 times 5 is 50. 9 times 9 is 81. So don't forget to multiply those two together, and then square root of 5 and square root of 5. That exponent, or that radical cancels. So we're left with just a 5. All right, I'm going to go ahead and factor down this 50. So 50 is 2 times 25. 25 is 5 times 5. So square root of 50, 2 times 5 times 5. What I would be left with is 162. 5 squared is going to cancel out of the radical. So I'm left with a 5, and then the 2 would stay underneath the radical. Now, 81 times 5, I'm going to go ahead and take care of a little business here. This 5 and this 5 will cancel each other. So all I'm left is with 162 over 81. So I'm going to type that fraction into my calculator. It simplifies down to a 2. So all I'm left with is a 2 and then the square root of 2. All right, B, square root of 6 times 4, or divided by 4 times the square root of 3. Multiply the top and the bottom. Okay, 6, or we have just that 4. 6 times 3 is 18. 4 times 4 is 16, and then square root of 3 times square root of 3 leaves me with a 3. All right, square root of 18. 18 is 2 times 9. 2 is prime. 9 is 3 times 3. So I've got the 4 on top. This will make a 3 squared, which means I can pull a 3 out of the radical, and then 2 is left. Now again, I can kind of take care of a little business here before we go any further. This 3 and this 3 cancel. Oops, sorry. So 16 times 3 on the bottom, this 3 and this 3 is going to cancel. So now what I have 4 times the square root of 2 over 16. Now I can simplify this. So 16, sometimes you won't need to use the calculator, you'll be able to see it. 16 is the same as 4 times 4. So this 4 and this 4 will cancel, and all I'm left with is the square root of 2 over 4. All right, C. Multiply by the expression in the denominator. All right, so just a 2. 42 times 7 gives me 294. Square root of 294. 2 times 2 is 4. Square root of 7 times the square root of 7 gives me a 7. All right, 294. We got to factor it down. So I know it's divisible by 2. That gives me a 147. I don't know that 147. I know it's not divisible by 2. It is divisible by 3. So 3 times 49. 49 is 7 times 7. All right, so 7 times 7 will give me 7 squared, which means I can pull a single 7 out of that radical. 2 and 3 will be left underneath it, so times the square root of 6. I'm going to break this 4 down. 4 is the same as 2 times 2, and then times the 7. And again, the reason I'm doing that is it makes it easy to cancel these pieces out. And so all I'm left with is the square root of 6 over 2. All right, D. And a multiply the top and the bottom by the denominator. So 3 times 21 gives me a 63. 21 times 28 gives me the square root of 588. 21 times 21. So now we're getting into really big numbers here. 441. Square root of 28 times the square root of 28 gives me a 28. All right, let's factor 588. So 588 divided by 2 gives me 2 and 294. Now I've already done 294. I did 294 over here. It factors down into 2 times 147. 147 factors down into 3 and 49. 49 factors down into 7 and 7. All right, so I've got a 63 up top times 2 and a 2 means I can pull a 2 out of that radical. 7 and a 7 means I can pull a 7 out of that radical, and I'm left with just a 3 underneath. 441 times 28. There you can, if you want to break it down and factor it, you can. I'm just going to do it this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 8. So I'm going to do 63 times 2 times 7. Gives me 8. 82 times the square root of 3. So I went from here to here where I'm simplifying. 1, 2, 3, 4, 8. I'm going to take just the fraction, just the numbers or the coefficients. 882 over 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 gives me 1 over 14. So I'm left with a 1 on top times the square root of 3 over a 14. In simplest form, though, that 1 disappears, and it's square root of 3 over 14. So that is your final simplified answer on D. All right, E. Multiply the top and the bottom. 6 times 3 is 18. 10 times 30 is 300. 3 times 3 is 9. Square root of 30 times the square root of 30 is 30. Factor down 300. 3 times 100. 100 is 2 times 50. 50 is 2 times 25. 5 is 5 times 5. All right, so I've got 18. I've got 2 2's, so I can pull that out of the radical. 2 5's, so I can pull that out of the radical. And 3 will be left underneath it. And then 9 times 30 gives me 270. 18 times 2 times 5 gives me 180 times the square root of 3 over 270. Take just the numbers, 180 over 270. Simplifies to 2/3, so I've got 2 times the square root of 3 over 3. So that's where that fraction's going when I simplify it down. Numerator goes in the numerator, denominator goes in the denominator. All right, and then finally, F. All right, 13 times 39 gives me a 507. 2 times 5 gives me a 10. 39 times 39 gives me a 1521. Square root of 5 times the square root of 5 gives me a 5. 10's easy to break down. 10 is just 2 times 5. Nothing happening there. Won't break down any further. There's no pairs. So, I'm going to set up my fraction. 507 over, 1521 times 5. And I can do the math on the bottom of that fraction, and it will still simplify it for me. So I'm left with a 1 on top, and that square root of 10, and a 15 on the bottom. In simplest form, that 1 becomes invisible over 15.